Good morning. This will be Spidz versus Walkabout. Spidz from OCE, Walkabout, aka 69420 Butt Chug from ABG Zaun. This one should have background audio. I've messed around a little with like how loud it should be, and I hope you can still hear me and the audio at like relatively good qualities. I have also listened to the previous game, and as this starts, I forgot to mention that last game. I forgot to mention who won. As in, like, I won my set, but Morpiece won his set, and Anyamore lost his set. So as a team, we went 2-1, which is how you win as a team. You either go 2-1 or 3-1 as your team. I actually think I record for like a little bit too long here. Yeah, from memory, the challenge has some issues. Yeah. So once again, Walkabout has an anti Hero Pantheon lineup. They first picked into me. How Aegis works is you've got 3 members on each team. If they've got first pick, which one time we fight, they'll have first pick, one time we fight, we'll have first pick. They get to choose which member goes into which of our members, and then we get to choose the last two versus the last two. And they first picked Butt Chug into me here. Because they've got an anti-Pantheon lineup. We decided to ban Draven Jinx because it's the most explosive out of all these decks, bar none. It's that or Annie Jin. Could have even been Fiora. What's it called? MF Swain. Like, all of their decks are like anti-Pantheon decks. And so we're here into Sivarakshan versus Annie Jin. Now, Butt Chug's, and I'm going to call him Butt Chug or Walkabout. Their Annie Jin is a little interesting. Like most Annie Jins, they're off Decimate. From memory, Butt Chug, because I fought 2 Annie Jins, or both of them brought Annie Jin, my enemy gamers. Butt Chug is on like 1 Doom Beast, 1 Augmented, 3 Mana Soul, and a Disintegrate, from memory. But let's just focus on the game here. We've got a 2-drop, we've got a 4-drop. They should have a pretty explosive opener, so I was a little scared that I would just lose. You obviously do this trade. I think they can probably justify attacking with the 1-1. I'm not going to trade into the 1-1, so you may as well just attack with it. I'm always trading into the 1-3, so I think Butt Chug should have attacked with the 1-1 there. And I'm pretty sure I draw a unit, which is really good. If I didn't draw a unit here, I'd be pretty far behind, just because not only would I not be able to challenge the 1-1, I'd also like have 1 less unit on the field. So I was pretty happy to get a unit here. And this position looks a lot better than if I didn't have a unit. And this position also looks pretty decent. Now they play this guy. This guy will put in damage over time. The Mana student will put in damage over time, but for now I don't have to worry about it too much. They play the Sunhawk, and the Sunhawk will stun the 2-1, and I can't trade well with the 0-1. I end up playing Sivir, and Sivir's played for a few reasons. One is that it can positively block their units. I can even justify a Shapestone to kill the Mana Soul student just because it deals an extra damage when it swings, and it also will deal extra damage when skills are played. Importantly, in most matchups you don't want to put damage on your Sivir, especially against Noxus. However, because their only pieces of interaction are 3 copies of Fervor and 1 copy of Disintegrate, as well as like nebulously damaging it through a Jin skill, right? We can put damage on Sivir, and putting damage on Sivir does not feel bad at all. What we'll end up doing here is they'll end up attacking with everything, and we'll end up blocking the Mana Source unit with the Sivir, which I think is the correct play here. Especially since we have second Sivir, I'm pretty comfortable just losing the Sivir. I don't want to throw the Sivir out willy-nilly. I want them to feel as if they want to kill our Sivir, and then when our Sivir dies, we can just replay the Sivir. I don't want us to just throw our Sivir out into the open. So I do end up shapestoning here. Now, doing the shapestone could be considered wrong. There's also the argument to do the 4-2. That's why I was thinking a lot during that turn. My memory is that I decided not to do the 4-2. I want to pause here. I didn't end up pausing last game. The justification for not doing, the 5-2 is that if I do the 5-2, they earn as hack. If they've got a couple units in hand, they will end up going wide, especially if they've got stuns. And we don't want to be in a position where we've only got 3 units next turn, and they're like 5 or 6 wide. That does have the chance of dispelling lethal for them. Dispelling lethal for them. Them being able to commit lethal, especially if one of their cards is a stun, or if they got a Jin and a stun. And then we start being in this really sad position where if only we had played the 5-2 on that turn where they're feeling forced to develop. So I'd rather be forced to take damage at this turn, try and do some trading now, and play the 5-2 on a future turn to try and block. Is this logic fully sound? I think it is. Also, just not spending mana here allows us to be more flexible with mana in future turns, right? Which is always a plus side overall. So that's why I didn't play the 5/2 here. But there is definitely argument for playing the 5/2 here if you're thinking about blocking. But remembering that they don't have Decimate, we also run 2 Rider Negation. So if they had Decimate, it wouldn't be a big problem. If they, since they don't have Decimate, we're not too scared about going to like 6, 7-ish. As long as we've got contingency plans for Jin skills as well as Fervor, I think we feel pretty fine. So that's why I didn't do the 5/2 here. They will end up attacking with these 2. They don't attack with the 2/3, because they just don't want to positively treat it into Sivir, while I was pretty comfortable trading into Sivir. I'm also comfortable doing this, because if you imagine the Mana Source student adds not only a 3/2, but also dealing maybe 1, 2, 3 more bits of damage, it's definitely an important trade-off here. And I like keeping the Sivir alive, so I don't have to expend the mana to do the open attack. Having the option for drawing into things with mana is just a useful thing to be doing. And here, I'm pretty sure we just open attack with Sivir. No, we play Bruiser, because Bruiser is big. Bruiser will trade into every single card in their deck. Bruiser will require them to be considering this the entire time. They play Sunhawk, I could not care less. Not only is that a Sunhawk, but they're not doing an attack token to deal damage. It's just like, it's fine, right? So they are trying to go wide here, but I didn't really care. We got another Bruiser. These are our 2 Bruisers. And while they did have another stun, and from memory they also have the stagehand here, which is exactly what I was talking about earlier when I said that I didn't want to play the 5/2, because I'm probably going to play the 5/2 this turn because they're going to double stun me. My thinking here, just to highlight that quickly, was to Absorber the Sivir so the spell shield gets popped. My thinking was that that play is almost fine, but Absorber might be one of our few ways of putting them on a clock, especially since we've got the Sivir and we've got the Absorber here. We can probably Absorber them next turn, depending on the Sivir level up. And right now, Sivir is 12 from leveling up. So my thinking was, we're going to play the Bruiser. Even if they stun, we can play the 5/2, and we should survive at a decent amount of HP if we play both the Bruiser and the 5/2, even through another single stun. As opposed to playing the Absolver, making them stun the Sivir, wasting the second half of Absolver, and not being able to play the Bruiser and the 5/2 anyway. But I just wanted to explain why I was thinking a bit for that. I end up playing this first because I'd rather trade with the Bruiser. My thinking was they probably have another stun. And so my thinking was that I want them to stun the 5/2 or some other thing so I can get the Bruiser to actually give me the lucky find. And I had a decent read. So, not a decent read, but I had the opportunity to make a choice like that, so I did. They attack here with everything. I'm willing to trade off Sivir. As I said, I've actually got exactly enough mana for Sivir plus Absolver next turn. And Sivir flips with a block like this. Now, I end up thinking about, okay, if this is what's happening, can I just push for lethal? If I do a block like this, I can still have a flipped Sivir and push for lethal via pulling something with the Broadwing. Right, like, because I've got the 5/5. I've got more possible mannerisms for lethal, but I lose to a Fervor plus a second Fervor, and if I don't draw a Rider Negation, they will always go for the double Fervor, pretty much every time, because I'm pushing lethal, so they have to. What I realize is that Rally is just as powerful in this position as a Absolver. I only realize this around this point. And so I think, okay, I can beat a double Fervor hand. I may as well block like this. They end up having Fervor. Or Disintegrate. They end up having Disintegrate. We're fine. They've got 0 cards in hand. We have so long to win the game, and we're still winning the game next turn. We end up playing Aegis next turn. They've only got 3 units on the field, and we've got 2 units on the field. Remember that we'll be playing the Sivir. And we get a really good option here. We end up getting Overwhelm. Overwhelm allows us to threaten stuff with the Rally more. So we attack. We're threatening 11 damage. If they don't block, we rally and win. If they block, but only one of my units, we Absolver and win. If they block both of my units, we rally and win. That's the sort of position they're in. Now they've got another card they draw, but they've got 1 card they're playing. It's not going to matter. Yeah. This was a pretty clean game from our end. I don't think we made too many misplays, and while you could make questions about the 5/2's timing, as well as some of the minutiae blocking decisions, I think it was pretty fine. You could have also added 1/1 to the Bruiser last turn, but I think doing this is a more likely path to lethal, especially since we have the Rally in hand. I mean, we could have also played the Merciless Hunter. Merciless Hunter wasn't lethaling, but it's fine. They probably realize here that if they block, they lose to Absolver. If they don't block, if they block, they also lose to Rally. But if they don't block, they just lose to Rally, they don't lose to Absolver. But we had the Rally, we win. And Buttchug, a Walkabout ends up surrendering from memory. Maybe they let the strike go through. Nope, they surrender. And we currently 1-0. Pretty clean matchup. From memory, the next two games are not as clean, and I might be making a few more misplays. Sorry if there's background noise. I have to like hold my microphone, and I think tapping the wire might make some noises, so I do apologize if that occurs. I end up doing Vayne Pantheon into Annie Jin. Again, Vayne Pantheon is our liability. All of their lineup, all of their deck should have about 40%, sorry, a 60% into Pantheon. None of those cards cost less than 2 mana. 2 or less mana, I don't want them. I mean, you really want cheap cards. You especially want Saga Seeker, and you're going to be drawing 3 mana cards at some point anyway. Our turns are sort of told for us here. We have to play 2-drop on 2. We probably are playing the 3-drop on 2. And them getting the Annie with us not having a Broadwing is pretty bad, but we can't even use the Broadwing to kill it on turn 2 because Broadwing got nerfed a few patches ago. By a few patches ago, I mean a lot of patches ago. We play Goat. Goat will attack from memory. Oh! This decision. During scrims and right now, this decision point happened a few times where I could attack with Goat to avoid overwhelm damage. If I don't attack with Goat, the benefit is that I have a target for my 3 mana unit if they decide not to open. But if they play a stun, I still want to be able to target something even if the blocking is a little bit worse. This is a tough decision because I'm not entirely sure if it's true to just not attack it, because we'll obviously, like, the 1 extra damage does matter, blocking them from the Tusk Speaker. Every time, I think I ended up deciding not to attack. I don't know if this line is correct, but because we've got the Protege in hand, I would rather the Goat be a 3-3, and in the off chance that they develop a unit that isn't a stun, which is unlikely, but in the off chance that they do that, maybe they've got a Broom Crew Rookie and a Legion Saboteur or something. I would have preferred to have the Protege be able to buff up my unit and be able to trade positively twice. But most hands they should have either want them to open attack or stun. And I think that if they open attack, it's worse. But if they stun, I'd still rather have buffed my Goat with the Protege, I think. Now, as a bit of a spoiler, I don't think this Goat ever goes in combat. Ever again. Or never. I don't know if this Goat ever blocks. But yeah. So there was probably an argument to attack based on that foresight principle. But for now, I decide not to attack. I guess I had a lot more time to explain that because you're gonna see me making these things. God, words. These thoughts now. So it will be a bit of a pause at the moment. But yeah. I hope the music is good. I quite like this music. I've gotten used to it as thinking music, and while I do prefer music as opposed to listening to this, I will listen to this on fair occasion. Anyway. I'm still deciding whether to attack or not, and I'm sure Buttchug already knew what he thought my correct choice was based on his hand. But we pass, and from memory they play Sunhawk. Our next 2 turns are pretty solid for us. We're always playing Protege, we're always doing double Goat, just because we need units. Yep, they play Sunhawk, we're going to play the Protege. No, Spidz, thank you. Because we're going to want to play 2 cards next turn. If we can play 2 units next turn, that means we're playing like 3 units in 2 turns rather than 2 units in 2 turns. And against it, while not a unit-based aggro deck, an aggro deck that happens to use units quite a bit nonetheless. I do this block from memory because I'm never using Challenger, and all my stuff's going to have 3 strength anyway, so it doesn't matter. I just want to make sure that I'm killing something that can burn. We're at 9 HP against Annie Jin, who's got 3 cards in hand, and they're wider than us. it is unlikely to see a win just from those perspectives alone. We do attack with Goat. Memory is they just let it through. Whoa. We've got Saboteur. From memory, they've got double stun in hand, and that sort of spoiler that I just gave you should be an indication that they just win. We definitely had outs. From memory, I end up playing Eula into Hail Cascade to try and draw a Saga Seeker just to fucking block. I swore. Oh no, I'm gonna have to give this a rating. That wasn't an intentional thing. I wasn't planning on avoiding swearing, but there we go. Yeah, we play the, because like my thinking here is that the only way that we can possibly win is through Chimming. Now we don't have to Hail Cascade yet, right? We can just Eula. Sorry, not yet. Hail. We're still alive here, but from memory they play Sage Hand. Yep. And then if you just add up the math, right, the most we can block is 4 from Annie and 4 from Stage Hand. And this is, like, you know, 3, 3, 2, 2. It's 10. Alright, so to survive here, we need to draw Saga Seeker. Just to, like, live. What is interesting is that we do have a way to kill Annie with the goat. I don't think this was correct, Spidz. You definitely do it on the other one, but it doesn't matter. And I don't really think I was thinking about it in those terms. Because even if I had Goat, they win. And you'll see, they had Jin! They drew this in the last 2 turns. Or last turn, actually. Maybe. It was a bit new to the hand. And that's game against Chuck. We got one last matchup, which is this versus MF Swain. Yeah. And last time we fought MF Swain in the previous video with versus Pixelit, they had double Mariah Warden and one of them made rear guard, and we did not have Saga Seeker, and it was sort of doomed from there. I will say, talking about that game, I did rewatch it just to check like audio levels just for this one as well. I should have attacked with Broadwing on 2, just because it's always gonna, if it trades into the thing, like if it gets hit by the Mariah Warden, I'm buffing it up with the thing anyway, and so it'll trade into the things positively anyway, so that was a misplay from me. But yeah, we've got this into that. I honestly don't remember how this game... Oh, no, I remember how this game goes. This game gets really, really tense. I was thinking about keeping both Broadwings. You really want early units against a pretty aggressive deck. Both Broadwings is a consideration, and I could definitely see other people justifying a double Broadwing keep. I decided to keep only one Broadwing, thinking that most of my draws are pretty good, and while early is great, you can get outvalued if you draw a bunch of early cards and no late game cards. So I decided to keep one Broadwing as a decent safety net. We're also probably going to draw a 3-drop. My thinking with this deck is you run like 8 3-drops. I think you're going to draw a 3-drop. You can be okay mulliganing a 2-drop that you want to play on 3. Nonetheless, we also don't draw the Saga Seeker, and I'm remembering a little bit about the game against Pixelit. We've got the Broadwing, and from memory they passed, which is good for us. Nope, they play Mariah Warden, and they get Acorn. Now I remember. They get Acorn. Oh, did I emote them? I forgot to emote them here. Oh no, here I remember to attack with Broadwing. Because they never block, because they always want to swing for a lot more. I think here we're just playing Vayne into, I don't think we end up playing it up Pantheon, I think we end up drawing something lucky in it. But here we play Vayne, we just need the blockers. And I'm very scared of being attacked to death, yeah. Yeah, they've got a lot of units. But we end up blocking like this. I don't want to give them the weapon. Impact is the same thing as the trigger from Legion Saboteur. We go down to 9. I will say, so I hadn't played this deck since the patch. I brought this to Seasonals when it was Fiora. But we were scrambling for what Vayne deck to bring, because I was probably going to end up bringing Vayne. Because this was my 3rd deck. And I remember there were a lot of Vayne options. We went through a lot of Pantheon, a lot of Pantheon Vayne deck lists. Only after submission did we realize that this doesn't run Guiding Touch. So just keep in mind that I don't have Guiding Touch. My only way of healing is through Pantheon. I end up playing Aegis here because we have the goat. So if they end up going wide here, we just can go to protect ourselves. But we want to be able to trade into things positively. I end up going into the Moray Water. My thinking is that elusive damage doesn't matter yet. I'm still going to be taking physical damage for probably another turn. They end up not having Flock, which is great. Them having Flock here would be definitely a blowout. They play Croaker, we play Goat. We sort of just continue on our merry way. We've got blockers for everything, depending on how we want to, if we want to give it Vayne or not. In my head, I'm thinking, am I playing Pantheon this turn? And I think I end up deciding yes. There's very few things that this deck can do against Pantheon, besides the Flock. Right, so they can do further into a trade. Okay, they have Misfortune. I forgot to mention that they have Misfortune. This turn becomes really interesting to me because I want to figure out how to put myself out of fervor range. So, if I show my hand here, I might end up skipping a bit because I did think about it a lot this time. If this attack just goes through, we just let this attack happen. From memory, the plan was to block Misfortune with the Goat. We block the 3-1 with this, and we block this with Vayne. We take 4 damage. We take 5 damage, which is a lot of damage considering they've got Make It Rain and Fervor, and we don't have the capacity to block. Now, I've got a few options available to us. We can play Dural. Now, Dural allows us to keep our Vayne alive, which was one of my considerations. We can also play Pantheon. If we play Pantheon, we're subscribing ourselves to Shield Bash if they develop another unit. Not Shield Bash. Get the name of the champion spell. Or Dural. Or Pale Cascade. And we're using Pale Cascade to do similar blocks, except we're blocking even more things. And we're keeping Pantheon alive. Through the Pale Cascade, we're losing every single one of our units. That was the idealized plan if we went for the Pantheon line. I do end up going for the Pantheon line. And I think it was the correct line. But there are arguments to play Dural here. Dural does a very similar thing to playing Pantheon because he's got the tough keyword and because he can trade into things. But from memory, I really want to get the Pantheon procs in. And to get a Pantheon proc, you need to be playing Pale Cascade. I don't know what Pantheon's at. It'll show me in a second. I'll be doing a lot of thinking. Pantheon is at... It was there. It was there and now it's gone. I'll see it in a second. I do think there's a lot of interesting decision points within this turn specifically, especially trying to play around what they have. Especially trying to play around a Make It Rain in addition to the Misfortune. And the Misfortune's Make It Rain, for example.
If we hesitate, we die, and I'm not interested in dying.
Misfortune... God, I was going to make a joke about Vayne actually dying, and then I just ended up saying Misfortune for some reason. But Vayne will end up dying here, so her lack of interest in dying will be met with sadness. Yep, this is the trade I end up doing. I end up Pale Cascading. I really wanted to be above Fervor Make It Rain. Double Fervor, double Fervor. My thinking was that in the event of a double Fervor, we will have hopefully drawn a piece of interaction to interrupt a Fervor. But it wasn't a great position to be in. I'm just thinking here if there's a better way to trust these. From memory, I did make a misplay. From memory, I think it's better to switch... Sorry, I got a text message. Better to switch the position of the goat and the Pantheon. It doesn't play around Make It Rain as much. Oh, this plays around Make It Rain. But from memory, that helps against a few things. Because if they hit the goat with a Make It Rain, I'd rather have Misfortune die and the impact weapon not go to hand. Because if they put the impact weapon on the Acorn, we're in like a decently bad shape. So Pantheon should be 2 away from flipping. Now, from memory, I end up playing this and then Dural, because I want to kill this elusive. Again, I'm super scared of getting burnt out, and we're not developing more than 2 units this time. So may as well develop the one that's got the challenger keyword, because we're never developing more than 2 units. Now what you'll notice is that they don't have Flock, they don't have Swain, because both Flock and Swain were great plays there. They don't have Flock, they don't have Swain, and they don't have Fervor, which is very, very lucky for me that they don't have either of these cards, because all of them would have been great in this position. Now, Acorn has discounted the cost of 2 cards. I didn't I still didn't remember to check if Misfortunes, if Make It Rain was one of the cards that I discounted, but I think the answer's there. But Acorn should have discounted 2 cards by now. Just do this trade, I'm thinking about anything, but... Alright, what I am thinking about here is if I'm attacking with Pantheon. Do I want to trade into the Croaker? Because if they've got Make It Rain, I don't know if I want to trade into Croaker. Yep, that's fine, I decide. And by I decide, I mean, what was I going to do? They end up playing Putt, and now we're dying to Make It Rain. And even if we draw a single, we still die to Make It Rain. We did draw a single. Wow, I have the power of foresight. So now we have to single this turn to survive. Now, because they're going to attack with an impact unit, the impact will trigger no matter what, right? Even if we can't ghost block the impact guy, because all of our guys they're either 3 HP and tough, so they don't die, or they've got 4 HP because it's the Pantheon. Right here, I'm just figuring out if I can ghost block. I'm figuring out what the best trades are. I decide that I want to keep Pantheon alive. Pantheon is my greatest chance at winning the game before they play Make It Rain or anything. Here I'm just deciding whether I can do things. What I was talking about before about ghost blocking the thing. And now we're down to 1 HP against Make It Rain. It felt really tense at this moment. At this time, my heart was pumping to the beat of the music, which had never happened before. I've never had an experience where my nervous heart pumping is to the music. What I realize here is that this is a great tumble pack, and allows me to push lethal in 2 turns. So I end up tumbling here from memory, because my thinking is if they have a spell, congrats, you had a spell. You win. So I end up tumbling, putting on the Aegis. Because, you know, they play Make It Rain, they win. They play Fervor, they win. They play, so many things they win. So I should just play to win. One thing we did want to avoid was, I forget if this guy was the one that ran Decimators or not. Because remember, I fought this deck twice. There's definitely reason to want to open attack next turn. I think about the Shepherd here. I end up deciding on the Shepherd, just in case they don't have another unit. Somehow they don't have another unit. I don't know what their card would be, except Leviathan. Right? If their hand is Leviathan, playing Shepherd makes sense that we can push a lethal through with Pale Cascade if their hand is also somehow flop. Look, Terrifying Sight, it literally doesn't matter whether I play Shepherd here or not, but my thinking was that somehow it might be important for pushing 3 damage in. I don't know. What if they do, no, it doesn't matter. If they do, if they do Flock, I think I'd rather have the 2/2 forced to trade into one of their units. Right? It matters, technically, I think. I attack here. I don't want them to develop Zap Spray thing. But we could have developed a unit, especially Camphor or a way to trigger Nightfall. Because triggering Nightfall will be important for single combating, right? If they have Fervor, we want to trigger Nightfall so that we can get a single combat. But we don't want to lose a Zap Spray thing. And I decide that because of the cards in the deck, we don't run as many interaction pieces as typical. We don't want to do that. They actually had Zap Spray Thin in hand that they top decked, and we managed to fucking win at the 1 health in a matchup that was totally unfavored in my opinion. Right? They were a target Pantheon lineup. They first picked into me. And it was just an insane feeling. Right now, I am typing in the Megalol CE chat. The 1 health hero, get your butt chugged, that sort of thing. I was very, very excited, and my heart was still pumping. Morpiece again ends up going 2-0 from memory. Morpiece ends up winning. I don't know if I ended up sending this. No, I did. Okay. Anyway, Anymore ended up losing, so we ended up 2-1. I know my words. I graduated from Word Academy. That should be the end of the recording. So yeah, that was my individual matches in AGC Spidz week 2. While there were some misplays, I don't know if these were the most exciting games. I do think the butt chug matches were kind of interesting, but this is something that I want to continue to try and do in future because I do think it has some redeeming qualities in terms of like what I'm trying to do with improving myself, especially since Worlds is around the corner and I'm qualified for Worlds. But yeah, I hope you enjoyed. I hope the audio quality levels were decent. I hope there wasn't much background noise. I hope my mic sounded fine. All of these things will hopefully be improved. I've done like the bare minimum work necessary to try and accomplish anything. I've done like one noise suppression filter. I've recorded it. I haven't edited it at all. You can see the bloody Streamlabs. But you know, there are a few things that I'm figuring out here, and I'm pretty happy with the minimal work with the result that I've returned. Thank you for watching, and yeah, Mr. Inconsistent is covering the record button. Thank you. Enjoy. I meant see ya.